Today, we will answer this math challenge given by one of our followers. And here's the question. Solve for the value of x given that 6 raised to x plus 8 raised to x plus 15 raised to x equals 9 raised to x plus 10 raised to x plus 12 raised to x. You can pause this video if you want to give this problem a try. And now, let's answer this question together. And so, our goal here is to solve for the value of x given this crazy equation. And to answer this question, of course, is let's take note of the 6. 6 can be factored as 2 times 3, while 8 can be factored as 2 times 4, and 15 can be factored as 3 times 5. Also, this 9 can be factored as 3 times 3, this 10 can be factored as 2 times 5, and this 12 can be factored as 3 times 4. Okay, and now, let's rearrange some terms a little bit like this. Alright, so we have 3 times 5 raised to x minus 2 times 5 raised to x. Let's get these two pairs. So we have 3 times 5 raised to x minus 2 times 5 raised to the power of x. Now, take note that if we have a times b raised to the power of c, this can be written as a raised to c multiplied by b raised to c. Therefore, 3 times 5 raised to the power of x can be written as 3 raised to x times 5 raised to x. We will do the same thing to 2 times 5 raised to the power of x. Now, take note that we have a common factor of 5 raised to x, so we can factor out 5 raised to the power of x, like this. So we have 5 raised to x multiplied by 3 raised to x minus 2 raised to x. So, we can replace the left-hand side as 5 raised to x times 3 raised to x minus 2 raised to x. Now, let's focus to 3 times 3 raised to the power of x minus 2 times 3 raised to the power of x. Technically, we will do the same thing as before. So, this can be written as follows. 3 raised to x multiplied by 3 raised to x minus 2 raised to x. Again, we will do the same process to 3 times 4 raised to the power of x minus 2 times 4 raised to the power of x. Here, we can factor out 4 raised to the power of x, like this. And now, we can equate this to 0. And since we have a common factor of 3 raised to x minus 2 raised to x, we can factor out 3 raised to x minus 2 raised to x to all of these factors. If we do that, we get 3 raised to x minus 2 raised to x multiplied by 5 raised to x minus 3 raised to x minus 4 raised to x equals to 0. Again, we just factor out 3 raised to x minus 2 raised to x, and 5 raised to x, 3 raised to x, and 4 raised to x. Now, since it is equal to 0, it follows that at least one of them must be equal to 0. So we can say that 3 raised to x minus 2 raised to x equals to 0, or 5 raised to x minus 3 raised to x minus 4 raised to x equals to 0. Now, let's focus on the first equation. We have 3 raised to x minus 2 raised to x equals to 0. Now, add 2 raised to x on both sides. This will give us 3 raised to x equals 2 raised to the power of x. Now, you can use any possible solutions to get the value of x, but technically, the only real number that satisfies this equation is when x equals to 0. Alright? So, we have one possible value for x. Now, how about on the second equation? What we're going to do here is to rearrange some terms a little bit. So, we have 5 raised to x equals 4 raised to x plus 3 raised to x. This is familiar because, take note, when we have a 3, 4, 5 right triangle, since 3, 4, and 5 are the sides of a right triangle, this satisfies the Pythagorean theorem that says that 5 squared equals 4 squared plus 3 squared. From here, definitely we can say that x must be equal to 2. Therefore, we have two possible values for x, namely x equals to 0 or x equals to 2. But before we end this video, let's check if those values are correct. Now, let's see what will happen if all x be equal to 0. So, 6 raised to 0 8 raised to 0, 15 raised to 0, up to 12 raised to 0 must be equal to 1. So definitely, it is equivalent to 3 equals 3. Since they are equal, therefore, x must be equal to 0 is correct. Now, how about if x equals to 2? Now, 6 squared is 36, 8 squared is 64, 15 squared is 225. Now, 9 squared is 81, 10 squared is 100, 12 squared is 144. Now, if we add the left-hand side and the right-hand side, sure enough that we get an answer of 325. Since they are equal to one another, therefore we can also say that x is also equal to 2. Therefore, our answer is x equals to 0 or x equals to 2. And as always, we are done.